Some show up at Keeneland just to be beautiful, some for the burgoo. Me, it's because the best handicapping challenge on God's green earth is right here in Kentucky. Star horses come from Florida, California, and New York, Arkansas, and Louisiana, all to what undoubtedly is the greatest horse racing melting pot in America.
Into the stretch at Keeneland, and Flight Line just moves right by. Life is good.
Win here and you've done something. Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. That's Keeneland. Now, let's get handicapping. And welcome in, everybody. It's the Keeneland Look Ahead. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now, back for a 30th consecutive meet at Keeneland. Hard to believe how time has flown. This is our second year doing the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. Great reception last year. Thousands of you tuning in each night for YouTube and Twitter feeds. Of course, you can catch it with the Twitter feed for @Keeneland Racing, @BetKeeneland, @Horse Player Now, and also on the YouTube channels for Horse Player Now and @Keeneland. So a lot of traffic there, a lot of folks taking it in different ways. We had a great success with it last year. Hope that you enjoy it again. If this is your first time tuning in, what we do is we preview the next day's races. Simple as that. But it's not just a handicapping show to tell you picks and who I like. You can get that at the Handicappers Consensus page at Keeneland.com in the expert picks section where I write out the stats and trends. This is more about strategy. How are you going to attack tomorrow's card? We're going to look at the card from a big picture. We're also going to give you the picks of the other public handicappers at Keeneland.com so you can get a sense of where the favorites may be, where the long shot races might be, and how do we strategize on the program. Friday's card will be a 10-race program featuring 3 stakes races. So we've got 3-year-olds in the spotlight. Of course, the Grade 1 Ashland for the 3-year-old fillies en route to the Kentucky Oaks. We'll see 2-time local Grade 1 winner Wonder Wheel back in that one. We've got the Colts on the turf, the 3-year-olds in the Transylvania Stakes. I got a horse I like in there quite a bit. And then we'll also have the Sprinters in the Lafayette, a race that's been on and off the schedule over the decades at Keeneland. It's back for a second consecutive year. We'll see the Lafayette Stakes, the first of 3 consecutive stakes races on the program. We talked to you about that big picture. Let's show you what that looks like. Same format as we had last year. If you're a veteran, you know what this looks like. If you're new, it's pretty easy to follow along. The 10 races line up, 5 down the left column, 5 down the right. Where do the pick 5 start? Such as race number 1 right off the bat. The pick 4 starts in race number 2. The pick 6 on a 10-race card is going to start in race number 5. We get to the back half of the program. The late pick 5 will kick off in the 6th. Also in the green is the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. That's the low takeout $3 minimum Turf Pick 3 wager that's been very popular at Keeneland in recent years. That's back again for the spring 2023 meet. We have Stakes Company coming in races 7, 8, and 9. The Lafayette. Then we've got the Transylvania, followed up by the Ashland Stakes. And then the Turf Pick 3 races round out in the 8th and the 10th. Now, I believe strongly that when you are a horse player, you cannot be betting the same amount on every race with every horse. You simply don't have the equal opinion in every single race. So you need to have key plays each day that you want to attack. I spotlight 3 each night in the Keeneland Look Ahead. Some nights they're easy to find 3 good ones for the next day. Sometimes you struggle. Some cards just don't line up and look to be ones that you want to attack a lot. Okay, so you bet $200 a week. You didn't bet Friday, you can bet it all on Saturday. It's not about cutting your budget back in this sense. It's about putting your opinions and your money at equal weights. When you have a strong opinion, you got to have more money on it. When you have a weak opinion, you either have no money on it or a light amount of money for a little bit of action. You can still spend the same amount at the end of the day, but you're putting the money that you really like on the horses that you really like. So my 3 key plays are outlined in the big picture each night. We've got one coming up in race number 2. We've got another one in the 4th, and we've got another in the 8th. So when you see 2 key plays on the card clumped together like that, close on the program in races 2 and 4, you got to start looking at those pick 5s, pick 4s early in the card and say, look, I've got opinions in the 2nd. I've got opinions in the 4th. How do I leverage those? You'll want to be attacking the early pick 5 and the early pick 4 if your opinions match what I like on Saturday, or on Friday, I should say, based on these, handicapping assumptions that I have. And so we've got different angles that we'll talk about as we go through each and every pick on the card. We'll look at all the races on the program as we go through here on the Keeneland Look Ahead. It's about a 35-minute show, just so you can kind of budget your time. You can also download the show on demand after we're finished. It streams live here at 8:30 the night before each day's racing, but As soon as it's over, it's archived right away. You can watch it back on Twitter. You can watch it back on YouTube and check it out that way. So plenty of opportunities. You don't have to be here live every night to catch it. Catch it throughout the day. It'll be up there all day tomorrow. You can watch it a half hour before post if you want, going into tomorrow's racing. So who do we like in these races, and how are we going to go through each and every one of them? Well, I'm going to get the help of my friends at the Keeneland Handicappers Consensus Box. That's at Keeneland.com. It's free. Scott Hazelton, Tom Leach, myself, Gabby Gaudette, Kim Nelson. We've been the five amigos in the box for several years straight now. I always like to compare my picks to other people because I want to see where I'm out on my own. Where do I have a potential price horse that nobody else is looking at? What races have 4 or 5 horses all picked with different top choices? Those are the races that are going to be races that are probably long shot kind of opportunities when 5 handicappers can't agree on anything. Then on the converse, when 5 handicappers agree mostly on a particular horse, 3, 4, 5 of them all pick that horse on top, that's probably where you're looking at your favorites. So we'll go through each race for you, starting off at race number 1, this spring meet. Keeneland often is typified by the baby races, right? It's 2-year-old time here in April, and at Keeneland, a rarity to get 2-year-old racing this early in the year in a lot of places, but at Keeneland, it's really a staple of the meet. We'll probably have anywhere from 8, 10, 12 races for the 2-year-olds during the course of the season. And you have to look at Wesley Ward's horses in these spots. We've had 69 since we came back to dirt in the spring of 2015. The first dirt meet after Polytrack was the fall, but the first spring dirt meet was 2015. 69 races have been raced for the 2-year-olds since that 2015 return. Wesley Ward has won 37 of those 69 races. So well over half have gone to Wesley Ward. You've got to start with him. Now, the question with Wesley Ward was last spring, he only won 2. That's not like Wesley Ward. We expect him to win 5, 6, 7 of these races during the course of a meet. He was cold by Wesley Ward's standards. And when Ward got beat, we had price horses. I believe the average winner was 14-1 in the races where Wesley Ward doesn't win. So if you can beat Wesley Ward in these 2-year-old races, you're going to get a big price. But he wins over half of them statistically over the last several years, going back to 2015. So, dance with the one who brought you or try to beat him again. And I would not be too bullish on saying, well, Wesley Ward was cold last spring, that it's going to happen again. But if he starts off 0 for 2, that might be enough. I mean, like with some traders, you'd be like 0 for 2, no big deal. But if Wesley Ward loses with his first 2-year-olds in this meet after struggling a little bit last meet, maybe it's time to get off the wagon and look for some prices. But I'm going to start off with Wesley Ward in the opener. No creativity here, but it's Bledsoe for me. This is a horse for Wesley Ward that's by a stallion that he purchased himself. This is a homebred. He's the owner, the trainer, the breeder. He gets all the candy if this horse wins. He owns the stallion. He ran the mare, Shrinking Violet. She earned $500,000 on the track. I get a feeling Wesley's first entry the entire meet. He owns all the candy here. This one's not here to show up and run 4th. I would imagine Bledsoe's going to be tough. He puts Joel Rosario aboard. I'll take Bledsoe on top. Early money's one to keep a little bit of an eye on here. If you're looking for the upset, John Hancock's had the second most wins. We told you about Ward winning 37 of these races. John Hancock's got 8. That's not bad because it's second best of everybody else, but it ain't Wesley Ward when you're 37-8 in the standings. But the one thing I like about early money, not just John Hancock, but this is the half-brother to Old Town Road, a horse who started his career 3 for 3 back in 2021 for Wesley Ward, by the way, including a Keeneland 6-furlong win for Old Town Road. So the half-brother was win early, won at Keeneland. Maybe early money is one to keep an eye on. Nurcan, the other one I used in here, the 12 for trainer Luis Mendez. Mendez brought a winner in here last spring from California. He does really good out at Santa Anita with the 2-year-olds in these baby races out west. He did win one of them here at Keeneland last spring. Let's go to the big board now and take a look at the big picture for the early part of the card. Again, the pick 5 starts in race number 1 with the Wesley Ward, probably a horse Bledsoe that we can single. Race number 2, I've got one of my strongest plays on the card right off the bat. 4-1 in the morning line on number 9, Forenoon. Forenoon is going to be my top choice in here. And I think it's a single. So we're talking about getting this pick 5 and pick 4 started using very few combinations. That gets me excited. And 4-1 in the morning line on Forenoon. A lot of reasons I like this one, a lot of angles. So let's talk about some of them. These are 3-year-old maiden specials, so they're the older horses, not the 2-year-old babies in here. In these races at Keeneland, we do not see first-time starters have much success at all at the 7-furlong distance. Get this, 26 spring meet races at 7 furlongs for the 3-year-old maiden specials. Since we went back to dirt, of those 26, 22 winners were horses with experience, only 4 of them first-time starters. Horses with experience at Gulfstream accounted for 9 of the wins, no other circuit 2 or more. So experienced horses, absolutely the way to go. So I'm looking for horses who have run already. The Gulfstream angle is certainly a plus. They've run well in this particular spot. A couple reasons I like Forenoon in here. The Dam is a half to close hatches, won $2.7 million. She was awfully good. This horse debuted at a mile at Gulfstream Park and kind of made an early move if you're a race watcher. Probably too soon, trying to cut into Seduction, who was a 4-5 shot who went wire to wire for Todd Pletcher in that race. So Forenoon took the shot but couldn't rebuff the heavy favorite in there, wound up third in that race. Now, Bill Mott made a similar move here back in 2021 with a horse named Caramel Swirl. She came here from a Gulfstream 1/3 mile, turned back to 7 furlongs, and blitzed them and ran really big. Same move, same pattern with filly here, Forenoon. So I'm looking for history to repeat. I'd like the career debut for Forenoon. A lot to like here. She's a daughter of Arrowgate. They seem to get better with more experience. So give me Forenoon as one of my key plays in race number 2. And as we look across, no one else has Forenoon picked on top. Forenoon, second and third choice for a couple of our handicappers. But that tells me 4-1 in the morning line. Nobody else of the 5 taking Forenoon. I think we might be able to hold our price. This horse isn't going to be 8 or 10-1, but I think at 4-1, you're very juicy. And if I can single myself a 4-1 in the pick 4, in the early pick 5, and play that horse straight up, I certainly like the way things develop there. So I'm taking the 9. Forenoon as one of my key plays in race number 2. Let's go to the third race next up on the program. And this is one where I'm not really excited. There's races you want to bet on the card, and there are races that you're not that excited to bet. This is not so excited to me because I just think it's chalky. Number 3, Comparative, is my top choice for Brad Cox. We'll tell you why in a second. And the other horse in here is Hayden Novano, the one horse who drops out of some of the toughest races we've seen at fairgrounds this spring for the 3-year-old fillies and could be lone speed. So really this race completely sets up. The 1 goes to the front, has class. The 3 sits second, and it's a Brad Cox trainee. I mentioned Cox, mile and a 16th here at Keeneland, because his horses win 31% in mile and a 16th races at Keeneland. Now, every time I have a stat, my first thing I want to do is question why, right? It's just don't accept the number. Ask yourself why. Mile and a 16th races aren't just like some other distance. They end at the 16th pole finish line. So horses for Brad Cox are really well known for turning for home and having that big burst at the top of the stretch, re-breaking, if you will, you hear people say. If you only got to get to the 16th pole finish line, you can see that re-breakers at the top of the stretch are almost home. And that's why I think Brad Cox's horses have such success here at a mile and a 16th. So I think Comparative and Luis Saez is going to sit right off the 1. It's 3-1 or the 1 holds off the 3. I just don't see anything creative here. I think both horses are going to get bet. I mean, how are you going to argue against the 1 Hey Novano? I mean, this is a horse who's faced South Lawn, the Alice Look, and pretty mischievous in her last 4 starts. Those are 3 of the best 3-year-old fillies in America. One of them just won the Fairgrounds Oaks in South Lawn. Pretty Mischievous won the Rachel Alexandra, and I think the Alice Look won the first leg, the Silver Bullet Day. I might have those 2 mixed up, but those were the 3 major stakes winners of the meet at Fairgrounds leading into the Kentucky Oaks. Now she's in a first level allowance. So the 1's going to be tough. You got the Brad Cox factor. It's 1-3, 3-1, but I would go too deep and use both of them because, again, we have the horse we think Ward's going to win the opener. We have the horse we love in the second race who's not even going to be favored. So we can use 2 in an either-or situation. A lot of times you don't want to go too deep in a pick 4, pick 5 because it's going to double the cost of the ticket immediately. You only add 1 more horse, but it doubles the cost of the ticket. That's the difference between a single and going too deep. But in this case, when we have singles right off the bat, and I think it's an either-or situation in race number 3, I don't mind doubling the cost of the ticket in this sense because the ticket's not going to cost that much. It'll be a focused, narrow ticket, and we'll be able to play it multiple times for our budget. Let's go back to the big board, see where we're up next here in race number 4. It's our first turf race of the meet, but not part of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. The Keeneland Turf Pick 3, those denoted in green, the TP3, those are the last 3 turf races on a card each week at Keeneland, or each day at Keeneland. So not part of the Turf Pick 3, but race number 4, it's going to be a key look as we look at early pick 4s, early pick 5s, and we're focused, right? We're 1 by 1 by 2. So we get here to race number 4. Can we use a few? Well, you might want to use a couple in this race, but I've got just two that I'm looking at. And these are my value plays in race number 4. I've got a couple horses in the morning line at 8-1 and 15-1 that I think you want to take a look at. These price players in race number 4 include number 5, Henley's Joy, and number 9, Gray's Creek. Now, the reason I like these two horses at prices is I think they're horses for courses. But most people, when they look for a horse for course, a horse who really runs well at a particular track or over a particular surface, are going to look merely at the record, right? You know, he's run 3 times at Keeneland. He's won 3 times. He's a horse for course. That's true. And it's obvious to everybody who sees it. But I think when you're looking at the 5 Henley's Joy and the 9 Gray's Creek in this particular race, they have run really big races over the course over the turf course at Keeneland in the past, but it doesn't necessarily show up on their resume. Consider the 5 Henley's Joy. This horse has run 3 times at Keeneland, 2 second-place finishes. That doesn't look bad. But the 2 second-place finishes were in the Bourbon Stakes as a 2-year-old and in the Transylvania Stakes as a 3-year-old. This horse has multiple stakes placed on the turf at Keeneland, now in allowance company here. Henley's Joy, now age 7. Nobody's going to find those races in the past performances unless you bury yourself all the way back in the career PPs. But Henley's Joy hasn't been here much since. Only ran one other time here at Keeneland, but I think could wake up here for the last out, going a mile and 3/8 in the McDermott, and now at a more honest distance, a mile and 16 for this horse. And Flavian Pratt rides Henley's Joy. If you watched opening weekend at Keeneland last year in the spring, Flavian Pratt was Mr. Everything. He won 7 races, including a bunch of grade 1. So don't be surprised. Flavian Pratt gets off to a really hot start. The other price horse in race number 4 to watch is the 9 Gray's Creek. Now, sometimes you can be stubborn as a handicapper and see something one time and you can't get it out of your head. If you go back and watch the replay of Gray's Creek winning here during the summer 2020 meet, remember during the pandemic, spring meet was canceled. We ran a couple days in July. I think it was 4, 5, 6 days, something like that in July. Gray's Creek ran over the turf course then. It was trained by Chad Brown back then, but shot like a rocket home out off the top of the stretch. Really looked fantastic. And I thought this horse had a big future. He's all or nothing. 16 career starts, 5 wins, only one other in the money finish. Now with trainer Paulo Lobo, look back in the past performances. This horse either gets there or is off the board. He really rallies from far back. He goes back to blinkers, does Paulo Lobo. He's run with blinkers 4 times. He's got 2 wins and in those 4 starts with the blinkers. So blinkers back on. You're going to get a good price. Gray's Creek, we know, can really run well over this turf course. I'm kind of excited to see him here. I think this is another 7-year-old veteran that makes this race really interesting. The 2 7-year-olds. 7s are wild. Henley's Joy, Gray's Creek, long shots for me, and one of my key plays early in the day. So I'm going to try to get through the pick 4 using the 5 and the 9. Also used the 7 Hurricane Dream, dropping out of a big stakes, was group placed group placed multiple times over in Europe. Grand Motion, Frankie Dettori, a lot to like in the connections there. And I think also the 2 Camp Hope is a horse who's run well. We talk about the obvious horse for course, right? Camp Hope, look at those running lines. 3 races at Keeneland, 3 victories. That horse likes the course. So I will go 4 deep in the pick 4s and pick 5s. I think this is a race you want to spread a little bit. But when you've got 15-1 in the morning line, 8-1 in the morning line on horses you really like, you got to attack this race intra race. You got to get 2, you're trying to get the 5 and 9 in multiple spots in here. 1st and 3rd, 2nd and 3rd, 1st and 2nd, So you're looking at exactas, tries. If you like supers, I'm not a super effective player, but if you're a super effective player, you're trying to get the 5 and the 9 both into the slots. Because if they both run, you got some big bingo coming. Intra race, you can play both the win in place, hook them up. But the 5 and the 9, good price plays in there. But if you're going for the pick 4, pick 5, go ahead and get a little extra protection with the 2 or the 7. And again, if you like the 5 and 9 as prices, then you play 2-7 over 5-9 in the exactas. And then that way, if the 5 or 9, one of the 2 runs a big race, just falls short at 2nd at a nice price, then you have the other 2 logical horses that you like on top of them. So a 2-7 over 5-9 and an exacta part wheel, I think you just really want to attack this race. And that's why I spotlighted it as one of my key plays, because you got to start thinking about this, right? And you want to get to this race and be alive in the multi-race bets and all that stuff. So race number 4, one of the real key plays on the card for me at a chance, at a price. And as we look at the other handicappers here, there's not a lot of joy for Henley's Joy. You don't see him anywhere, and you don't see Gray's Creek anywhere else either. I'm the only one with the 5, the only one with the 9. I'm wrong a lot, but I want to be right in situations like this when nobody else is following along. So I think we're going to get decent prices. But the fact that 4 other public handicappers don't mention either of the horses in their top 3, those folks could be completely right, and I'll lose this race, and that's fine. But I like to have prices and I like to have my opportunities to go after them. And I've got them in race number 4. Let's go to the 5th on the card. And the race number 5 starts the pick 6. This is a sprint race on the main track. And this is one where, I thought that Vava was the best horse in here. Coming out of the Rachel Alexandra, the Untappable Stakes, took on Pretty Mischievous. The Alice Look, we talk about these fillies. Hoosier Philly was in the race in the Rachel Alexandra, and she was right behind her. There's nobody that good in this race, but Vava's turning back in distance from a route back to a sprint. She did win going 7 furlongs at Churchill in the fall, but this is not the profile necessary to be very successful at Keeneland. You don't want horses turning back from 2 turns to 1. Here going 6.5. These horses in races are typically won by horses pretty close to the lead. Not necessarily dead set front runners at this class and distance, but the average winner is only a length and a half off the lead. So you got to be pretty close here. You don't want to be too far back. Vava, though, is also picked on top by Scott, also picked by Gabby, picked on top by me. Tells me we're probably going to get a short price. It's a short price on a horse I don't really love. So this is a race where I'm not going to go wild here. Number 8, Zairati is another one I think you want to use coming out of the Busher Stakes. But again, another one turning back in distance, but looks to have more natural speed than the 8 or than the 6 Vava. So the 8 Zairati will probably be in front of that one throughout. We'll see if Vava can go by her. Zairati is by Into Mischief, the top sire at Keeneland since we returned to the dirt back in 2014 fall. So nobody's produced more winners, sired more winners than Into Mischief. Those two look pretty good, but I think you want to get some extra coverage in here. Peacock Last, the 10 is worth a look. Peacock Alley, use both Peacocks in here. Get a little coverage, a little spread action. And the 11 Rowtown coming off a big win last time out at Gulfstream Park for Brian Lynch barn that can get kind of hot here at Keeneland from time to time. And he gets Tyler Gaffleone, our leading rider here over the past several years. So the 11's usable in here. So because we were focused in those other ones, right? We single Ward in the opener. We've got Forenoon singled in the second. We're only 2 deep in the third. We used 3, 4, 5 of them in the 4th race, and I think you use 5 of them in here. 6, 8, 10, 7, 11. All horses worthwhile using in race number 5. Let's turn to the back half of this card here on opening day at Keeneland. We want to welcome everybody in who's tuning in late to the show tonight. Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now. We're going through each race on the Friday card at Keeneland. Forecast tomorrow for cloudy skies, 56 degrees, some overnight rains, but I think we'll be okay in terms of the track conditions tomorrow. Be sure to check the official track websites and track social media for Keeneland and at Keeneland Racing on Twitter for updated changes and weather conditions and the like. They do a really good job on the website updating conditions at Keeneland. 6th on the card starts the late pick 5, and it's the first leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Turf Pick 3 debuted about a year or so ago, and it's a $3 bet with the low takeout. 3 turf races, the final 3 turf races on the card each day. As long as we have 3 turf races, we've got a Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Some days we don't get 3 on the whole card, but we certainly will here on opening weekend, Friday and Saturday. Keeneland Turf Pick 3 starts here in race number 6 at the 5.5 furlong turf sprint. In the opening race, we told you about how dominant Wesley Ward is in the 2-year-old baby races. He's won over half of those in spring meets at Keeneland. Well, Ward's just as dominant in turf sprints. I mean, that's his other MO. He's won 19 turf sprint allowance races here at Keeneland over the years. No other trainers won more than 4. That's a spread 19-4 for everybody else at best. So I think you want to keep an eye on Wesley Ward's trainees when you go into these. And last spring meet, they ran 15 turf sprints at Keeneland during the 2022 spring meet. Wesley Ward won 8 of them, 8 of the 15. So while he was down with the 2-year-olds, remember he only won 2 2-year-old races. I said last spring, he won 8 turf sprints. So Wesley Ward's going to be awfully tough. He's got 2 in here, and I'm not going to go overly creative to try to beat him. The 8 Coffee Maker, the 6 Her World. Her World, the stakes placed over this track in the Limestone. Coffee Maker, stakes placed over this track in the Indian Summer. And last fall, Coffee Maker showed up here in Allowance Company and just ran a hole in the wind. Ran one of the 10 fastest allowance races we've seen in a turf sprint, 110 of them over the years, going back to 2006 in our database. The 9th fastest turf sprint allowance race recorded at Keeneland, and did it in commanding fashion. Take a look.
6, Sutherland tries to squeeze through from 7th down toward the inside. Still 5 from the lead. Coffee Maker in front. Apache Tears is in the 2nd position. Mumayaz is 3rd up on the outside. Sutherland is 4th back toward the inside. Coffee Maker opens up by 3.5 lengths. Coffee Maker by 4. Coffee Maker to the wire. Coffee Maker to win for John Velasquez.
So if it's not coffee maker for Ward, it's probably her world for Wesley. He's got Irad Ortiz riding her world. Check this out. 32% win rate for Irad Ortiz riding Keeneland Turf Sprints. That's from 9 victories. 32% winner. He does excellent here in the Turf Sprints at Keeneland. If you don't like those 2 Wards, keep an eye on the 5 Dressed. Why? Joel Rosario's riding. In Turf Sprints, we mentioned Irad Ortiz with 32%. That's tied for the highest among any jockey because that other 32% rate goes to Joel Rosario. And Rosario's got twice the amount of wins that Irad Ortiz does. 18-9 wins in Turf Sprints. Nobody's come close to Joel Rosario's win rate, and 32% with that number of victories on the turf sprinting here at Keeneland. So I look for Dressed as a late runner maybe to pop in there coming off the layoff for Wayne Catalano. So 865, but I think you only go too deep in here when you're talking about any kind of multi-race bets. Remember, as we go back to the big picture here, the 6th race is going to start the late pick 5. It's the Keeneland Turf pick 3. I think you take both Wesley Wards in here. They're going to split the money up a little bit, but I think the 8 and the 6 are the way to go. My preference to the 8, though, but certainly 8 and 6 are 2 that you want to hone in on. 7th race on the card is their first of 3 stakes races. It's the Lafayette Stakes and an excellent field in here of 3-year-old sprinters. The Lafayette's been on the stakes schedule, off the stakes schedule over the years. It's back again this year. Corona Bolt for me is one I absolutely love. Corona Bolt's a horse who I really thought in my Countdown to the Crown series that he could have been a Triple Crown type horse. I thought he was just devastatingly good in winning the Sugar Bowl Stakes sprinting at Fairgrounds in the winter. They did try to run him long one time at Oaklawn in the Southwest Stakes going a mile and a 16th. It was a sloppy track. He never looked comfortable. He didn't get near the front, and he just threw the anchor out. So I don't know. You know, you're not a Derby horse now at this point, but Bolt Doro out of a Quiet American Mare, I think he could get some distance. But Brad Cox is filthy rich with the 3-year-olds. I mean, he's got, he won the Arkansas Derby. He's got horses who won the Lecomte. He won 5 races between the 3-year-old series at Oaklawn and Fairgrounds this year, from the Gun Runner all the way through the Arkansas Derby at those 2 tracks. So he's got a loaded hand for the Derby. He may not have to, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. So Corona Bolt turned back to a sprint after that one bad race. Was it the sloppy track? Was it the distance? I don't know in the Southwest. But in the return race, he's running against older horses at Oaklawn. Early in the year, on March 5th, beat older horses as a 3-year-old in a salty open conditions allowance race and went wire to wire. I don't think they're touching Corona Bolt here. I think he's in a different league than many of these. Now, what we saw from Gulfport last year was absolutely fabulous in the summer, but the horse tailed off a little bit from Saratoga on. He's working faster than you expect to see for a Steve Asmussen trainee down at Fairgrounds. So I would expect Gulfport's going to come back really running to get leading local jockey Tyler Gaffleone. Much respect for Gulfport. As for Hijazi, he turns back in distance for Bob Baffert. This is the $3.5 million runner who struggled in the American Pharoah last year going long, struggled in the San Felipe going long, and they're just cutting bait, I think, and cutting back and saying, we're a sprinter. But you don't pay $3.5 million for a sprinter. Nobody does that. You expect this to be a Derby horse. So I'm not wild about consolation prizes at this point in the career for Hijazi. I respect him. I think he's going to run a good race. But I just don't think he's a sprinter. I think he's a tweener that can't get the long distances. But is he a brilliant sprinter? I'm not so sure. I think Corona Bolt's just better than him, and I'm taking Corona Bolt. Let's look across the handicapper selectors box for race number 7. Scott's on Gulfport. Tom and I both have Corona Bolt. Gulfport for Kim Nelson. And determinedly, as Gabby Gaudet keeps it in the family, going for her father-in-law's horse, Mark Cassie, in here. She does not pick the Cassie horses that often, so when she does, she means it. So keep an eye on determinedly in here, Gabby's pick, but will be turning back from a mile and an eighth effort in the Risen Star behind Angel of Empire. Of course, Angel of Empire out of that race came back and won the Arkansas Derby, looking like a really promising Kentucky Derby prospect last time out. Let's go to the 8th race on the big picture. The 8th race, of course, is Stakes Company here with the Transylvania, and it's also second leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. Now, there's going to be a hot horse in here named Carl Spackler for a lot of players. This horse is going to get bet. Carl Spackler, top pick in here for Scott Hazelton. I've got Carl Spackler picked second, as does Gabby. But I'll tell you, after the maiden breaker last time out, Carl Spackler ran through the wind for Chad Brown in the second career start down at Gulfstream Park. This horse is going to get bet. Chad Brown's horses get bet anyway. This horse was impressive. He's going to get hammered. I think he's going to become a graded stakes winner. It could be Saturday or it could be Friday in the Transylvania Stakes. At some point, I think he definitely will. But I think he's going to be too short of a price to play and take that class rise at the price that he's going to be offered from post 11. I think there's enough in there that Carl Spackler is going to be what we call an underlay, right? That you're not getting as much in price as you should in value. So therefore, I'll try to beat him. But I'm not just trying to beat him with anybody. I actually have a horse I love in here. His name is Candidate. If you watch races down in Florida this winter and saw him win at Tampa Bay Downs, you could not have been more impressed. He looked fabulous on the front end. Then he went to Gulfstream Park, stepped up in stakes company in the Danny at Beach, and beat Major Dude, a serious horse for Todd Pletcher. Those two locked back up next time out in the Kitten's Joy Stakes. Major Dude got the better of him that day because they didn't go to the front with Candidate. They tried to rate him. I'm not sure why they did that, but now we've got a jockey change. Gaffleone's off. It's not like they replaced Gaffleone. He's going to ride Carl Spackler, so I get that. But Candidate is really good. I mean, really good. If this horse gets near the front end, I don't see a lot of speed down to the inside of the gate here. There is some towards the outside. Dude in Colorado, the 12's got a little speed. Mo Visitor has got a little speed from the 10 hole, but I think Candidate is the fastest horse from the inside. He's in the 8. I think he's going to get a good trip out of there, go right over to the rail under Rosario, and I think he's going to take him wire to wire. I'm a big fan of Candidate. If you like to watch race replays, go back and watch this horse run. He is really talented, and I think we're going to get a decent price on him. I mean, we look here at Candidate in the handicapper selectors box in race number 8, and there's only one Candidate. And he's on top on my list, and I like that. I like it. I say you're on an island when you're the only one that mentions the horse anywhere, and it's picked on top. I like being on the island. I think we're going to get a price on Candidate. There's a lot of big-name trainers, big-name barns involved in there. I think with Arnold Delacour, we're going to get a fair price. I think we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 8-1 on Candidate, and he is my third key play of the day. He's 10-1 in the morning line. If we get that 10-1, I'll be smiling. But if we get 8-1, I'll certainly like it. I think anything above 5-1, I'm very, very interested in playing Candidate in race number 8. Let's go to the 9th race on the card. It's the Grade 1 Central Bank Ashland feature race on the program. And we've got last year's key 2-year-old filly in all the Keeneland stakes. Her name is Wonder Wheel. She won the Alcibiades on the front end. And then she showed versatility in winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
Wonder Wheel is pinned in at the rail. She's got to find a place to go. She's 8 lengths off the lead as they make their way around the turn. And then it's Sabre Tough and Vegas Magic. Brand Love, every step of the way so far, heads around the turn at Keeneland with just a head lead here. And on the outside is Leave No Trace. And the two of them will turn for home together. Chocolate Gelato's going to come wide. Atomically is in behind horses. And Wonder Wheel is getting going. And she swings up on the outside full of run. Wonder Wheel comes charging up on the outside as they arrive at the final 16th. She takes command, and Wonder Wheel and Tyler Gaffleone gets his first Breeders' Cup win.
You know, when we look at this year's Ashland Stakes, we might all be kind of looking at the same thing. We know Wonder Wheel was great last year, but she got beat at odds on in the Suncoast Stakes in her comeback race at Tampa Bay Downs by a filly who certainly you would not think on paper, Dreaming of Snow, should have been able to warm her up. Another filly in this race, Julia Shining, was third in that same race. So if neither one came back with their best at Tampa, do we trust them here in the Ashland Stakes to get back on their best form? It's sending a lot of people to look for alternatives. And one of those is Punch Bowl. And I think we all landed on the same alternative. Look across in race number 9. Scott's got Punch Bowl. I've got Punch Bowl. Gabby's got Punch Bowl, and also Kim Nelson. Guns and Graces, long shot pick there for Tom Leach. But we all went opposite of the two big fillies in here in terms of resumes. Punch Bowl's 2 for 2 lifetime, looks to be extremely talented. We'll hear from Brad Cox in just a minute about that filly. I thought she was really impressive. But if you look at the resumes, you've got Julia Shining won the Demoiselle. She's by Curlin. She's trained by Todd Pletcher. Curlin, Pletcher trainees have won the last 2 editions of this race. Malathot 2 years ago and last year with Nest. I mean, Julia Shining looks like an Ashland winner. Wonder Wheel won the Alcibiades here last year. She won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She's going to be building up one of those kind of take charge lady and Malathot resumes if she adds the Ashland, right? I mean, you win the Alcibiades, the Breeders' Cup, and the Ashland here at Keeneland. I mean, you're on to a Hall of Fame kind of local career. So Wonder Wheel, Julia Shining, they look like the two logical horses, but we're all kind of going towards Punch Bowl in here. So how good is Punch Bowl? Well, Tom Leach caught up with Brad Cox and asked him some questions about this contender coming into the Ashland Stakes. Here's Tom from YouTube.
Brad Cox going to be busy on the opening day card. Let's start with the Central Bank Ashland and Punch Bowl. Maiden allowance, now a grade 1 stakes, so she's obviously showed you a lot.
Yeah, she sure has. She's trained well leading up to her first run. Always thought she was a filly that stretched, but good enough to get it done going first time, over 3/4. So, I think she's got a big future. Throwing at a lot at her over a short period of time, but she's talented. She's came out of her allowance race in good order, and we've been pointing for this since. She's had 3 good works since at Oaklawn, shipped into Keeneland 2 nights ago. She looks great, so happy with where we are right now.
What are you seeing in the training that tells you she's ready to take this step?
Well, I don't know if it's what we're seeing in her training. We've seen what we've seen from her races. I mean, I think that's probably what gives us the confidence to go ahead and try out the Grade 1 company. She received good figures out of it. Obviously, she's bounced out of it in good order. So, I just think she's a filly with a lot of class and talent, and hopefully Grade 1 ability.
Yeah, Corona Bolt in the Lafayette, and he really ran big last time. Was that a significant a step forward as the numbers suggest?
I think so. I mean, listen, he's talented. He broke his maiden here in Churchill in the fall, and then obviously was very impressive in the Sugar Bowl. Tried to stretch him out. We kind of questioned whether he would or not. He is a smart horse. He does listen to what the rider wants. Just don't really know how far he wants to go. He's fast. He's very fast. He drew well in the Lafayette. I like the post. I'm hopeful he can get a good trip, and he's going to have to, take a breather at some point. I mean, it's at 7/8. There's some speed in there, so he's going to have to relax at some point. But I think I'm optimistic he can handle the 7/8.
So good updates there on Wonder Wheel and also Corona Bolt, who are going in consecutive stakes races on Saturday, or I should say non-consecutive stakes races. 7th race for Corona Bolt, 9th race for Punch Bowl. And again, the public handicappers here at Keeneland, we're all landing on the same horse, and we're all trying to pick against the top 2 logicals in here who have done all the damage, Wonder Wheel and Julia Shining. Now, I think from a multi-race standpoint, I would want to use all 3 of them. That's not a default in here. I like Punch Bowl. I think this is a filly who's going to get to the front. I think she's faster than Wonder Wheel. I think she's going to take them wire to wire in an Ashland Stakes that typically plays historically very well to front runners, even front runners at big prices. We've seen this race go completely off the rails with major upsets. And when it happens, it's typically with a horse, on the lead. I mean, in the Ashland, in the 8 years since returning to dirt, 3 favorites have won, which is fine. And then 3 winners at 22-1, 30-1, and 52-1. So crazy stuff can happen in here. I just don't see it in this particular year. This looks like one that leans towards the logical horses. I can't see it getting beyond the big 3 in here. But if there is to be a big upset in here, Guns and Graces was the long shot pick for Tom Leach. We've seen it before in the Ashland, so Tom Leach will be smiling and he'll be stuffing hundreds in his pockets if he can get Guns and Graces home in the Ashland. Good luck to that. And, look, I'm going to use the 3 of these logical contenders in the multi-race wagers. Punch Bowl on top for me in the 9th. 10th and final race on the opening day card on Friday is a 1 1/8 on the turf. These maidens here are stretching out to a long distance. And, I think in this race, Doral is the horse to beat off of 2 second-place finishes. Really started his career with 2 difficult beats down at Gulfstream Park. This is a horse who last time was 6-5 in the betting, just missed by a neck behind a wire-to-wire winner for Christophe Clement. Got no pace help that day, 6 furlongs and 1:12-1. We'll want to see this race maybe go a little bit quicker, at least get some pace set up in here, potentially for Doral, but Doral's the top pick in here for me. I think you want to use a few of them, but really the way I want to attack this race is with a horse I'm on the island with. Number 4, Penumbrous Maker. You see, nobody else has the 4 anywhere in their picks. This is a horse where I don't think there's a lot of speed in this race. Like I said, Doral's going to need a little bit of pace. I do think Penumbrous Maker is going to the front in here, though. John Velasquez, very aggressive when he's got this kind of situation as a rider, especially with a good draw in post 4 like that. I think Penumbrous Maker is going straight to the front. This is a horse who's 2nd, 3rd, 4th all the time. Never runs a bad race. So this horse is going to live it. He's going to stay for a while, or she, I should say. And I think she's just going to find one better. So I think the key to the last race on the card is Penumbrous Maker at a nice number underneath. You're going to want to use this horse second in exactas. 10-4 the way I've got it, mostly with Doral on top. But I would also use the 7 and the 3 in here. Haystack the 7, Idle Chatter the 3. We want horses from Gulfstream Park. We want horses with some experience. This is kind of the profile that we're looking for in here. The 10, the 4, and the 3 all come from Gulfstream. The 7 also from Gulfstream. I'm going to focus on those. But I think the 4, Penumbras Maker under Velasquez, leads a long way and gets nailed by one of those 2. So not a full back wheel person. I'm not one to play like all 4 in an exacta. I'll take the logical horses I really like and put them over the 4. So for me, it's 10-4, 7-4, 3-4 in the finale. But nice long shot there, I think, in the last race. Penumbras Maker is going to go a long way. They end up 3rd or 4th, and you get nothing with the back end of the exacta. But Doral the top pick in here. And I think you get, Doral on top. I wouldn't even use Penumbras Maker if I'm playing to pick 4s and pick 5s. I would use the other 3 horses that we had mentioned in there on top. I don't think Penumbras Maker can win the race on the front end, but I think the horse is going to run well, get weary at the end, and if she can hold on for second, we can cash a nice ticket. But if you're playing the multi-race wagers, 10 Doral, 7 Haystack, 3 Idle Chatter, I would go 3 deep. In the 10th and final. Went a little bit long here, 40 minutes on the first one. We'll tighten them up a little bit. Usually about 35 minutes is what we're looking for these, but we did have a 10 race card and a lot to talk about. So I will be back on Friday night to talk about the Saturday card, which features the Toyota Bluegrass and a bunch of Breeders' Cup champions back. We've got Goodnight Olive running in the Madison Stakes. And of course, Tappet Trice, one of the favorites for this year's Kentucky Derby. I believe he was second choice in the last Kentucky Derby future wager pool. He will be the headline act in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes on Saturday. Until then, a blessed Good Friday to everybody tomorrow. And of course, a happy Easter if we don't check back in over the weekend. I'll be here each and every night, 8:30 Eastern, for the Keeneland Look Ahead, looking at the next day's program. Good luck at the races, everybody.